the panel on C++ in the developing world, why it matters. Thank you all for coming. We have a panel of 6 people now. Then there's some folks from South America, some people from Africa, and some people who have been to various parts of the world. We have also a guest, which is Honey from India, and who lives now in Ireland. So I think we have a lot of angles covered, and I'm the host. And let's kick this off with a short introduction round. Let's get started with Honey.
Thank you, Jens. Thank you for the opportunity. I am Hani Sukeshan. As Jens already mentioned, I am originally from India. Then 5 years back, we migrated to Ireland. I got a job in Jaguar Land Rover, Ireland. So, regarding my career, I'm an embedded software engineer. Now I'm having around 16 years of experience. So, my first programming experience is, of course, with C++. So I do program mostly in C or C++, in Linux, and some other RTOS as well. That's me. Over to Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriel Valenzuela. I'm from Argentina. I am currently working as software engineer in WhatsApp, a cybersecurity company, where we develop a standard defense and response system and system information and event management. And I worked with C++ for almost 3 years. It was my principal language in my thesis development of Petri networks. So I continue with Paulo. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Gabriel. So thanks, Jens, for the invitation. I'm currently working as a software engineer in a company called Virus Dev. Um, on a project related to audio development. I have been working in the field for about 5 years professionally, but I am audio technology enthusiast since the early childhood. So, uh, well, my first experience with C++ was actually in high school. This was the language that were taught on these very old Pentium 1 computers at that time. But after that, I didn't had any other chance to work with C++ after I worked as a programmer. Um, well, apart from that experience, I have been an engineer in telecommunications for about 15 years. But yeah, well, in software engineering, as I mentioned it's just 5 years ago. Okay, okay, continue to Philippe.
Yes, my name is Felipe Molonde. I'm originally from Angola, sub-Saharan Africa. So I have been working mostly on computer architecture in the last years, mostly focused on processing in memory, as well as accelerating DNA analysis on processing memory technology and exploiting the computer architecture and computer science stack, trying to find out the code design between algorithms and hardware. And I'm in the process of joining ARM right now in Lund to work on the GPU modeling team. So yes, I'm mostly a hardware guy, but I also very interested in software as well. So I try to be in the middle, but in the last years, my focus has been more in designing processors and other kind of specific accelerators for AI and DNA analysis. Yes, I think I would continue with Matthew.
So, my name is Matthew Benson. I'm a computer scientist by training and by experience. I generally haven't actually worked formally in software, but it's actually like my first love, so to speak. So it's something I just do day in, day out. I worked a little bit after I left university in energy generation. It's kind of like a bit of civil engineering, so to speak. And from that experience, I mean, I think the energy used in computing and programming has been something that's near and dear to my heart, which is what has, it's something I've been researching and tinkering and trying to see how much performance can I milk out of older computers, and how much, what kind of impact would that have? So this is something I've been researching on personally, as my personal passion, so to speak.
All right. So naturally, this is a panel, and a panel lives from questions. So the audience should ask the questions. If you're in Hubilo, just in the chat or in the questions tab, this is probably the best place to put that. And if you are in LinkedIn, the chat is the place to put your questions for the panel. And so when we talk like about, the compute being different in your part of the world than it is like in the first world, like where we have like the edge of the computing. Can you just like speak a bit about your experience, like what kind of hardware is available to your folks, and like, what's a normal hardware where people write code on in your environment?
Should we take the question on ourselves, or anyone can take this question?
Yeah, maybe I should, so anyone wants to start answering this question?
Okay, I'll take that question. To me, I can now tell that what kind of hardware now people are using back in India, or like the place where I'm born. But I'm sure that they are using high-end hardwares. At least they say like I don't know it is LA class, but at least the software community is using high-end hardware depending on the use cases. Probably like graphic programmers or gaming, those kind of programmers, they are getting access to high-end systems. And regarding, as Matthew was telling in this talk about connectivity and all, I think the part from where I belong to, like they have there is no issue about connectivity and all, unless we are in some very remote areas. So connectivity is also so good. Speaking about the time when I started programming, I remember not I started programming, the first computer I am given at my workplace. So it is like 256 GB hard disk, and I don't know, sorry, 256. Yeah, I don't remember the RAM, but it is very, very. It can't run as Matthew was telling about the IDs, so it can't run high-end IDs and all. But nowadays, I'm not facing that problem. So why I'm telling that is like we not because of the performance issues, but we when we are introduced to Linux, those time we start with VI, and then Vim. So it's like as Matthew told, it's like one step at a time. So when Matthew mentioned about trying out IDs, I immediately got to that point. I mean, like I remember the days which I tried with VI. It's very hard for somebody to learn VI at the first place. You easily get mad. But then VI to Vim, then I remember like we do have when we browse the Linux kernel source code and all. So like we need how would I say that? What is the term? I forgot. So we need to browse this code, right? So we need to check the functions, kind of. So those time, I forgot the package name. We need to, like in Vim, we need to install some packages, and we do all this with terminal. I forgot the package name, epax or something like that. So that we install. We don't browse the kernel code in an IDE or anything like that. So we browse the code from terminal. So we have to install some package. I forgot the package name. So we have to install some 2 packages, and with some command of like keyboard only, we browse the functions. And later, it was a very useful thing that happened is, I think, free electrons. So some company like that, they have a free, or Elixir, I believe. Elixir, they have a Linux code browser online. So I remember my happiness when I see something like that those times. So it's all good memories. I know I digress from the question, but it is good to think about those times. Thank you. I think anybody else want to take this question? I think Matthew has some memories to share.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, what I could say, I mean, in relation to the question is that, of course, there will always be those people who have access to the latest and greatest, but they're a very small minority. So even as I was like the focus of even like what I was alluding to is when I go out into the street, when I see what is available for sale, what I see is there's a lot of Core 2 Duo, dual core, Sandy Bridge, 4th gen Intel, so to speak. And, kind of like on the higher end, maybe you'll find a few 8th gen, and, it reduces as you go up. So the general trend is that let's say the $100 price point. It's very similar to what you'll find, like on eBay. What's available for $100 on eBay is generally what you'll find many people now have access to, so to speak. Yeah. So anyone else?
Yeah, I think I can go next. Can you hear me, please? I think I'm having some trouble with my connection.
I can hear you.
We can hear it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, so mostly I'm based in Angola. So mostly I think people, if they have really access to high-end computing, I think most students and people work in IT. Most I see probably AMD, Intel, and probably mobile phones mostly dominated by ARM. And I think I see the same high-end PCs that I see around in Europe. I don't find anything in particular, since we basically don't produce processors and then everything we mostly import. And I think Intel still dominates mostly the market.
I think Paul had something to tell.
Yep. So, well, back in the days when I was at elementary school, having a computer it was just for very few people, and well, the only access that you had is if you are going to a school, a private school, you know. So I recall back in the day that when I went to school, I had the access to the computer, but they came with Microsoft DOS, and we usually only learned some commands, creating folders, files, and so on. It was not it, it didn't have too much impact as I had when my father came with a computer from the flea market. It was not a fancy computer. It was a TRS 80 from the 80s. Well, 10 years after I came across with this device, I connected to my computer, to my not computer, to my TV set, very old TV set with cathode rays. And my curiosity started when I typed a command in BASIC that came. It was called play. And after play, the arguments were the notes in English notation, C, D, E, F, and you can play a sound. So that was my first time when I came interested in kind of programming. It was very straightforward. So type in a command, then some argument, a value. It was basic. And when it took years after uh, the some policy measures that came onto place to make the equipment more accessible to people. So computers, color computers with more resources like this, memory, etc. And well, it was the time when everyone started to play around with Visual Basic. So, well, I noticed some professionals starting making their own programs to um, handling data as similar as you do with Excel or something like that, databases with at that time access. So yeah, the next generations here were more affordable to have this uh, the access to these technologies. So yeah, I can compare is you can have a $100 computer with a Raspberry Pi or any other single board computers, and this is one of the slides I can highlight from Matthew's talk when you will gain a lot of experience when you have less resources and you will close to what is done on the computer rather than a higher level language or even an IDE. So on a Raspberry Pi, you can install any editor and you can program on C, C++, Python, or something like that. But it's more, it's not, it's more democratic to make programs. So.
Gabriele has some memories.
In my case, it's very similar to Paulo's history. My first computer I have was in the year 2008, Pentium 4, I remember. But it wasn't until the college where I started to programming, and the hardware in the laboratory of computer science was a dummy terminal, which ran on Windows version in a server. So I started programming in that computer, and after that, in my personal laptop, I started using Linux and continue using Linux Unix system and develop in this platform with a small mid-size hardware. It's not especially a cluster computer. It's much more a laptop, personal laptop that can run a CMake and C++ compiler and make software mid-size, small size. But I agree with in the possibility we have to develop in a very small hardware like a Raspberry Pi and create software in a variety of platforms, and that is an advantage.
Yeah, so I think, do systems like Raspberry Pi get any distribution into new worlds? Like, for example, Matthew or Gabriel, Paulo. Is Raspberry Pi a thing in your countries?
Yes, there is Raspberry Pi in my college. There was some Raspberry Pi 3, I think. Not the last one, but a previous one was the last.
So as regards Raspberry Pi, I honestly don't see a lot of it. I did see a few people, trying to sell them a few years back, but I think the last 2 years there might have been a shortage. like globally. I think I noticed something like that. But what I do see a lot of, like I mentioned before, is a lot of desktops and older desktops. That's really like what I see many people generally will have access to. I'm talking about like the regular people, not maybe people who have access to like a job with a multinational or government. Those who have jobs generally have access to kind of like the latest computing, but kind of like only in the office. So like even what I felt was a core principle of what I was speaking about is the distribution to the masses. Like, is it okay? I mean, if only 10 people in a nation have the latest MacBook Pros, I don't think that's not an ideal situation. It's like how, I mean, we I'm talking about performance that would empower like a large parts of the population to have as good as an experience, kind of like as those throughout the world, so to speak.
Or do you have something to share?
Well, yeah, here regarding single board computers, there are really easy to find here. So, and obviously there are cheaper. So, but yeah, there is some tendency to buy some computers, not the latest one. Obviously, they are really, really expensive. They might not justify the investment if you can do on a computer from uh, not the latest one, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago with some technology or some processing power that can do almost close to the same that you want to achieve or program. Yeah, as well in this part of the world, one of the fields that are more popular is web programming. So for web programming, you don't need huge computer power. Usually, it's an editor, yeah, just reflecting on the browser. That's it. It's not very power consuming. Uh, so yeah, I feel here it's the um, very important part of the population have access to the hardware, but this should be accompanied with how do you uh, teach or how do you approach um, uh, a programming language according to the field, right? So C++ for embedded systems, or web programming for obviously uh, web interaction, and so on. So yeah, this is the thing I feel like it's not fully accompanied, but yeah, it can be improved. So,
Thanks. Do we have questions in the background, Jens?
Yeah, it seems the audience is rather listening today. But I see here now I chat a question on communities, which probably is like interesting. How is like kind of the the setup to just be in contact with other developers for you locally? And I think we're gonna go with Matthew first.
Okay. So I think I'll try and answer the three questions. I think but my answer probably try and answer both. It's the three questions do seem related. So my view on teaching languages and programming, especially C++, to kids from a smaller age, and also and related to that is also women. How do you encourage women to get into software engineering and programming and the like? I do know that there are many, I may not say many, but let me say that there are women who are involved in programming because of university. And there are many, I think many is not quite the right word. There are women who do learn computing. But I think, as with many cultures, it takes a lot of encouragement. It's the brave few who will soldier through, going to a university course for programming and what have you. So I think to encourage more people, the core thing is access. Is like the lower the cost. Say as Paulo mentioned, his father brought a computer. I mean, the more people who are able to get computers into their homes, and the more young girls, young boys will get interested in it. So it's really about access, which comes back around to the energy, the availability, the cost. Like, what does it cost to get the computers in people's homes, in people's environments, and what have you? And that's something that I usually see a lot. I see that children these days they really know how to work mobile phones, because they'll get access to mom's phone or dad's phone. They know how to play the games, they know how to play videos and the like. So the access, the lower the energy, the more accessible, then the more exposure to more people. Children, women, and yeah. So that's really the heart of why I'm kind of like zeroing in on C++, like this performance. It really matters to get more people having access to computing, so to speak.
Someone else going to take this question?
Yeah, I think it's you.
Okay, so are there many women in your country into software engineering or programming roles? So at least from the part which I come from, yes, a lot. I don't know if I have mentioned in some talks earlier, but I don't feel like I am the only woman in a particular project team since I started my career, because in our companies and all where I past worked on, it's almost like, I don't know about the correct percentage, but I don't feel like a lack of women there. So probably because of a lot of engineering colleges there, and software engineering has been a boom. Probably I would say that when I pass out of my secondary school, it's like some people go for medicine, some people go for engineering. It's like the default. Some people check like, yeah, after 12th we'll write entrance examination, medicine or engineering, and for some people who are very passionate about arts and like that, they go for arts or different jobs. But it's always kind of a default, like we choose this or this, like that. Okay, so I don't feel lack of women in software engineering program roles, at least from my part of the country. But when I migrated to here, then Ireland, then I realized that yeah, in the West it is. There are regions where even STEM is considered like we are encouraging girls, women, or other underrepresented people to get into STEM, because like there are jobs which are I didn't realize that there are it's not like I didn't realize that in our in our place as well, there are like jobs gender based, that is still there. But I didn't know that engineering is also considered gender based. I didn't know that knowledge I get only after coming to Ireland. Okay, but I know that more people are coming into that, and there are more communities supporting girls into STEM or other community underrepresented people into STEM kind of. But so let's wait and see. There'll be more representations in future years. That's what I feel. Thank you. Polo.
Oh, yeah. Well, related to women, I can tell that I noticed there are few participation like in online communities or some networking events. But if you look closer to a list of employees or the numbers of percentage of their roles in software or programming, yeah, we are close to have some 50%, 50%. So there are is uh, um, an important participation of women in programming roles. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't see they are willing to participate on communities. So it might be an oversight that there are not too much women in the field. Well, something to improve is at the early years of education, not being, not telling that programming roles is are gender based or something like that, that it's only a role for this particular part of this particular kind of living. Some stuff that are very hard to accept, but yeah, that's the reality. So encouraging from this, not necessarily a 100% coding areas or 100% coding uh, academic programs to children to in later years involved in programming and software. So a different approach should be taken, like and at a high level, like robotics or uh, video games on some kind of uh, tablet or something with a display. So yeah, not necessarily like someone needs to type code to make something work. At the very at that age, some abstractions should be more encouraged, like building blocks or connecting cables, something like that. And by doing that, improving the foundations, uh, obviously we can address and encourage if a kid wants to make in the future a career in software. Now, the current motivation I'm seeing is at the later age, maybe when someone is entering to college or already leaving the college, is like obviously, and we cannot deny it's how many, how much money I will earn if I enter to the programming roles. So now that is the how do you say? Now is the slogan to make someone to enter into the programming world, but without the foundations, we are not changing something substantial that it's improving lives, quality of people. No, it's not about just the money. It's also about doing something else for what is in your community or improve uh, someone person's life. Yeah.
Thank you. Gabriel.
Well, about women in the software engineering, in my case, I knew women with a high position in the engineering world. Unfortunately, there are few women, but it's necessary that number grow up in any programming field. I think it's not necessary only for C++, but the good point is here we are some communities dedicated to women, especially, and these communities promote the programming in the woman, and it's related with the question about the communities, what communities can do to encourage and improve the quality of people learn. I think is the main part that community makes is a bridge between newbies and seniors programming. So newbies can learn more of real life projects and think this is important. And more community promotes more sharing knowledge, and I personally think is the knowledge shared, everyone can grow up. And related with the programming in children, a professor one time told me the language is only the vehicle, so anyone can learn programming in any language and adapt their knowledge in programming to any language.
That rings a bell in me. I mean, anyone that you say, like, anyone can learn a programming at any age, right? So my mom is retired now, so I was thinking about ideas to keep my mom engaged. So my next question to my mom: start
Yeah.
learning Python or C++.
It's a good idea.
That's true. I've been wondering, like, how do like the new standards spread into your countries? Like, is like, what are the standards you use on your code bases, especially like in Africa and South America? I mean, I know that in Ireland, it's probably where Honey lives. It's probably a very modern or embedded system, but like, what are the systems? What are you working on, and what standards are used for that? And let's get started with Paulo first. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, in my case, in audio programming, I have this flexibility of using a standard something in the middle. I'm not using C++20 due to some constraint I have. It's not my fault, but it's Apple's. Apple Plank is not up to date on C++20, so I cannot use modules for now. Well, I don't know when I can do it. Anyway, so I usually stay on the previous standard in C++17. This is the standard that can I work in closed platforms environments, Apple and Windows mostly. Um, but this is I can tell from my field. In other fields that they use here, C++, yeah, it can be something in the very best scenario, something like C++11, the the standard that you will find some literature, like the books that from Bjorn and some others that appeared at that time. But traditionally, and some legacy code is pre C++11, even on academia. So because the textbooks and the people that are teaching stay in the past, they didn't they are still relating as C/C++, something like that. That they are still kind of the same language. So that's very unfortunate. So even me, before entering in a professional field of using C++, I was thinking the same, because that is the mindset when you graduate. It's like there are because we are not aware of the C++ is having a continuous development, is being standardized. Compared to another popular languages, they don't standardize it. They are continuously providing new versions from at really a small time frame. So you never know which version are you using. I can tell that from Python. So there are several Python on 3.6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, and there are kind of compatible unless you are doing something specific. So yeah, back to C++ is that is the one of the challenges is like we cannot keep up with the latest C++. The most recent will be now C++23, and we are not even adapting C++20, or it's not even available fully on the rest of the compilers. So the support is not. So how can or how can a standard be established if we are moving or well, the compiler support is not at the same pace as the standardization. Also, the guidelines on C++. Today, there was a Zoom meeting from Andreas Weiss on Misra C++, which was recently released. So now this is another subset of core guidelines, like should we adapt or should we not? So there is a discussion on this very recent discussion on Reddit. So this kind of mismatches between how a standard should I learn and not to being really a lot of years behind or adopting too fast C++, any C++ standard might be a challenge on how I can adopt a particular one. Yeah.
Gabriel?
Well, I agree with Paulo. Where I learned C++ was a mix-up between C and C++. It's more like C with standard code. Nothing, a very ugly version of C++, but that is a way of learning. And I think it's important to introduce the new standard of C++. Most of the companies, I think, is using legacy code, so the max level of standard is 11. In my case, in where I work, we are using the standard 17. But some companies I hear or listened is using all versions of C++. I think it's more for afraid of the new change introduces the new standard, and the fact that change the old standard to a new one probably will require a lot of investment in time and money, because some things change radically from one standard to another. Matthew?
Okay, so I think something that I observed and something I was trying to bring out in my talk is this. The way I view it is that we, like when it comes to the standard, and I don't think this would be something unique to my country. Just something that I think is there globally is that it's something a bit like a triangle, where just at the top, there are the few people who would even know how to access C++20. I mean, many people, they just know, okay, just use the compiler. So whatever is the standard on the compiler is what they will use. So depending, that now depends also on the operating system that you're using. So for example, the reason why I was using Arch is because Arch Linux is because, it's a rolling release. So I get access to newer compilers. But, because I've been trying to work with modules, and even that I've actually had to now compile the compiler myself in order to access those features. So it's the more recent the standard, the less people have access to it, and so it kind of like goes like a triangle, so to speak. So in light of that, I know many people, and, like even the difference between C and C++ is not something that very many people actually even understand, because they just use what is there. And even if you're using a modern compiler, I mean, you might be writing C code with, just using the IOStream for input and output, but everything else is C, raw pointers and pointer arithmetic and what have you. So I think that's why, I kind of like said, okay, fine, get away from the IDE. You need to understand, just what it's like to type in the compiler and give it flags. And I mean, it's all about access, basically. The more people have access to the core of the actual programming, and not, kind of like, where the IDE is hiding things for you and holding your hand and making things work for you. I think there was even a question about Chat GPT. Now, I mean, my personal thoughts about it is that I believe in natural intelligence, the intelligence of people. That natural intelligence, that's, I mean, for example, even with the question about women in programming, there is that natural different intelligence that women have. That, I mean, if you look around in your team and you're all men, you're missing something. You need to have more women there. And yes, it is our responsibility, even as men or other women, to make sure that it's not enough to have some women doing university courses. We need to make sure that they come on board and they feel that natural intelligence that they have is part of whatever software, whatever programs that you're building. So I think what the vision I have, I mean, this what I was trying to kind of like bring out, is that we need to encourage more access to code by women, men, the natural intelligence. Because the problem with AI is you still need to kind of like investigate whether what it's telling you is true or not. And for me personally, that's too much of a mental burden. I think I prefer dealing, with humans. It's I don't know. It's easier to tell if a human is lying to you. You can kind of like look in the eyes, maybe. But Chat GPT will just spit out whatever, and now you actually have an extra job of verifying whether what is said is true or not true. And yeah, that's what I think about like the standard, and that's what I see about I mean the exposure to the new coding standards. Because I think like we're like ambassadors, those of us who know how to we're kind of like to pass on the knowledge to the communities, and kind of those who are learning from us will pass it on. So that's what I think. The community is the key to improving the situation, basically. That's what I think.
Multiple bell ring moments for me when you talk. I also think about the same. I mean, like ChatGPT. I don't know. I have a different opinion, but I agree with that. The point of like you love to work with humans. So yes, humans are different anyway. And you talk about women. So women are very good in multitasking. Yes, so that you should accept. and yes, community, regarding the community. So to me, why I'm interested in community is similar to what you talk, like we are ambassadors, or like we are. So to me, I come from a family of like in my family there are no software engineers at least, so I choose my path. Or after secondary school, I choose computer science, uh, without knowing anything about computers much. I have literally seen a computer, but I haven't ever worked or I haven't played games or anything like that. So I choose computer science, leaving my most favorite subject, biology. So it's kind of so emotional, uh, uh, rather than passion. So it's kind of emotional to me when I choose computer science. And the first programming language which I learned is C++. So, and I still live with programming, computer science, C++, all these things. So to me, it's a emotional part there. And regarding why I'm interested in knowledge sharing, or like why I'm interested in coming in community, first point, which Matthew has already mentioned, it's a community. It's a human factor is still there. I'll have more friends in the programming community than probably in the outside world. So that is one factor. It's a friendship community. Another factor is I. So as I told, like I come from a family, they can't guide me where I need to go like that. So I get many advices from many of my gurus, starting from my when I start my career, and even now. So I'm getting a lot of encouragement from C committee. From so I have to thank Jens in particular for all the opportunities which he gave me. So when I receive something, like it's my thought, like when I receive something, I am obliged to pass it on to other people as well. So that's always in my heart. So that's one reason I am trying to engage in community. uh, it's a bit hard finding time with the family and all, but still on my leisure time, whatever little bit leisure time I get, I try to be uh, share my knowledge. I mean, invoke some discussion, so that, like, prompt some questions, so that new thoughts arrive, new mean uh, these are something which interests me as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's always important to give people a chance to to become part of the community and to share their knowledge. Which actually, like when we see with the committee and how the language evolves, how is that accessible for people in the developing world? How can they understand where C++ as a language is coming from, and kind of how it's made? And has any of you like looked into like the committee and how things are working there?
Well, so checking on the ISO CPP website, you will see some reports of the working group. It's sometimes overwhelming because there are too much, and as there are papers, obviously the length or the extent of the document, it's just having a lot of reference from past meetings or past technical reports or defect reports, something like that. So yeah, here there are some a question related to the experts in C++. I say they are expensive. Well, there should be some arrangements or some partnerships with um, maybe some institutes or universities, because if they can afford bringing an expert, uh, as much as they cost, dividing the ticket cost for a lot of the several students, well, it will minimize the impact to to some of the wallets of the students. Because yeah, I tried to enter in some C++ training, but yeah, there are expensive compared to the economy that we have here. So it's very restricted to do that. So most of the times, and this is related to the other question about the conferences. I watched the conferences from the previous years of C++, so to be aware of what other professionals are using C++, and other areas, approaches, or some criticism on C++, which they are. But I was surprised. I don't recall which was the day, yeah, from Munich C++ end of the year meeting. I think it was on Tuesday, and there was a particular slide regarding people attending to C++ conference, and JetBrains uh, aggregated this information from the surveys. They found that 80% of C++ developers that they claim to be C++ developers or are using C++ are not going to conferences, which is very high rate of people not going. Um, well, from my end, I can tell it might be because there are based in countries that you might need to get a visa or the flights are really not affordable for someone's salary. So yeah, this might be a cause. I don't know. Or there are people that too much reluctant to assist in a conference where there are too many speakers, several topics, and you cannot get anything, and you get the fear of missing out. And if yeah, it might be an overwhelming experience. But from what I heard on meeting C++ stuff that and some colleagues that they went to CPPCon, that it's actually very fun. I haven't been there, but I plan in the future. So yeah. Well, I don't think there are any other questions related to that. So yeah.
Gabriel, you have something to share?
Yes, I have a similar situation with Paulo. In Argentina, it's hard to bring some international conference. Some universities cannot afford the cost, but um, personally, this incoming year, 2024, I will try to promote the virtual conference in my university and teach more C++ in a subject that I'm teaching. That is the idea. I hope it could be possible. Um, so it's related with the area exchange in the university education. Is promote, at least in my university, promote more C++ and using at least the standard 17 and even more, maybe the 20 standard. That was a great success. And related with the ChatGPT, I agree with Matthew. I think it's human intelligence is important to make a criteria what happened or make an deep analysis of something is not working well. I personally use only for create text and more elegant and nice text for an issue and comment and so on. But always 2 eyes or even better 4 eyes can make a deep analysis and trace back in something that is not working. I think it's on the question talking until now. I don't know, Matthew, do you have anything to say?
Well, I just wanted to say something brief on the matter of experts and training. I think the developing world, I think, will always be different. Like how things will work out for the developing world is different. In fact, I was playing around with the idea of instead of calling it a developing world, it's kind of like looking at it like developing differently. Meaning it could be we could say that we're developing at a different time. That you're coming from, you're coming from behind, so to speak. That there are those who have gone ahead of you, there are those who have access to the latest and greatest, and you may be having access to the same thing, maybe say 5 years behind. So in light of the conferences, I've noticed that I tend to get the most value from older talks. So, say CPPCon, say 2020, 2019, at this stage is when I feel I'm gaining more value from the content that may have been given, say 5 years ago. So I don't think it may, even though we may get to the point where there are conferences, the ability to benefit from the online recordings, the ability to kind of like pick up from your level, just wherever you are, to be able to, just see a talk from, say 2017, and now you're able to apply the features that were being talked about then, because now your current compiler has availability. Because like in the conferences, yes, there is that tendency to talk about the latest and greatest, which not many people will have access to. So I think it's okay to be coming from behind, so to speak. And I think that's one of the benefits of technology. Even with, as Paulo mentioned, the issue of traveling. I actually had hoped to travel to CPPCon, and it turned out I wasn't able to. And so they actually made an exception. They said, okay, they weren't planning to have any online sessions. But I made my request. I told them I'm not able to, but there's something, there's this talk that I felt I wanted to speak about. And so they gave me a chance to, do it online. So even today, this is the second time I'm giving the talk. And I got to improve on the slides a little bit. And hopefully the next time I'll give it, maybe it might be in person. But the point is, the technology is bridging that gap. So we don't have to do it the way, kind of like people do it, fly to one place and the like. Being able to watch the videos, even if it's 5 years later, still has great value. So that's what I think about that.
I'm sure Jens will have a point to mention about this.
Yeah, it's. First, I do know that some of the trainers I know have given trainings for companies in India, where of course the prices are usually set for the commercial world, right? So there's a company who wants to train their team, and then those prices are okay. Some trainers probably also give like courses to students, etc., and then they probably have different prices, or may just not take anything for it. And then there's like the common C++ personalities, which also give talks and do things for free for user groups. Regarding like community and content creators, that also exists in other countries, right? There are C++ books written in Spanish, and I guess maybe those authors are from Spain. Maybe there's some C++ book authors from South America. Mentioned in the chat here that it's not visible to the audience, but actually there's a website called learnqt.guide, and they offer various courses on the online platform Udemy, and the author is currently publishing QML6 book, and they are from Rwanda. So they are actually an African author and C++ programmer who shares their knowledge online. And I think that more like, or at least what I see, like a lot of the knowledge where people go for probably in also like in the developing world is using online platforms like Udemy and the other learning platforms which exist online. Maybe can we hear something about that, like from Matthew? It's like, what is your experience with that?
So I think I'll kind of like mention from my experience. One of the things, like my actual learning of C++ has actually been more out of like personal, like my personal passion and endeavor to learn. And most of my learning has actually been outside of university, because when I did computer science, it's at that time Java was, like the main language. That's what the lecturers were really excited about. And so my learning has come from personally looking for the information. And so I think that's why you hear me like kind of like advocating more for community and like using the resources that are out there, because I don't think I see even like C++ being taught, as a language in a university. And I think even these days with all the browser-based languages, there's not a lot of interest. You'd have to be really interested in the performance to venture into C++. So my idea of the learning is that, it's more about your personal initiative. That's why I'm also talking about more about the community and access, so that anybody can kind of like reach out. And
So you personally do not have experience with online learning platforms like Udemy?
No, not really.
Okay. Maybe Paulo or Gabriel?
Well, here is something that it might be controversial. Yeah, I tried those online platforms, which it's almost of the year are with courses on sale, but I haven't finished any of the courses because maybe my learning skills are not video based, more are hands-on experience. Um, uh, but I prefer some written tutorials rather than videos. Um, as far as I can tell, I had good experience with other online platforms where they have some kind of community. There are not only recorded videos and where you cannot interact with any other one. So, but not for C++, for any other type of technologies that are complementary to C++ or complementary to software engineering. Uh, so yeah, this is what I can tell on these online platforms. I'm curious of learning Qt Guide because there are not too much condensed stuff on Qt as a framework. There are usually dispersed, and the forum I haven't found helpful on Qt compared with any other frameworks of C++. So yeah, I'm going to give it a try, but there is the book as you mentioned, so maybe I will buy the book rather than uh, opting to these Udemy courses because, as I told you, I have several listed ones, but I haven't finished any of them.
Yeah, maybe those online platforms are also a bit of a generational thing that maybe, but also it's like I know that Kate Gregory is like on a different learning platform, and she's like quite keep pushing courses, so there's definitely an audience for that. And I see Honey
Yeah, I am a fan of, actually they say MOOC, right? This online learning platforms. I'm actually a fan of it, but as you told, like everything is on price. Fortunately, I get this via from our company. So in my earlier companies as well, they give importance for uh, learning. So they give, so in our goals itself, like for every year, our objectives itself are set for, there's some goal related to learning goals. So we need we because they believe in that, they give this subscriptions. So I have tried many of this, like Udemy, Skillshare, Skillsoft, Pluralsight, Coursera course, which I take on my own. I I purchased a I mean, I did the course. Coursera has an interesting feature, like if we finish, we can go buy the certificate. So what I also experienced, like Paulo was telling, like many courses are like. Uh, so I see a recent meme of Apple. I can't express it, like a kid in front of a lot of apples. Each apple is like that, a bite, just a, and somebody was telling about in the meme. The title was about my books. So in that, I responded my programming courses. So it's like so like that. So I think everybody has this experience, like we can't finish things in a time, or like even for books we can't finish in time. But to me, what I like, the positive thing which I take from that is that we at least learn that much, so we don't have to we don't have to be regret on it, like we could at least learn that much. So I take it only in a positive way. So yeah, Udemy, Coursera, edX, I have tried many of this, and yeah, as Jens mentioned, Kate Gregory is a active Pluralsight C++ course maker, and I have attended few of her courses as well. And I usually say Kate is my C++ guru, because like I think for C++, especially if I take a course, like I mean I learned C++ start learning C++ at the age of 15. But again, regarding the modern C++, if somebody asks me who is your guru, I can point to Kate Gregory, because like I attended her Pluralsight course from right from the start to end, like that. So yeah, I have only good things to tell. Thanks. Gabriel, do you have something experience to share about Udemy or any?
I personally don't use it. I learned most of the most modern C++ for the conference. That is why I knew Jens, two Jens. But um, I knew about the platform. I more like the tutorials in YouTube, articles, or book.
Well, I have some a piece of advice on the Coursera platform in particular. The C++ courses there are obviously from universities. Um, if you want to get the foundations of the principles of using C++, it's fine, um, but it's not modern C++. They are still on the raw pointers, not for each base that looks the legacy one, something like that. And there are only focused on well, console applications rather than dealing with GUI frameworks or some stuff. Yeah, I this might be related to the question related to what can be improved in C++ at universities, and it's adopting a most recent standard, not being like a legacy code because it's an old language compared to the newest one that came into place, and there are languages that became to be replaced as a modules for teaching computer science. So the, this is what I found. There actually there is actually a course from the MIT on C++, and it's C++03. So yeah, this is one to take care about. The recent ones that you can find in another place like Udemy or Pluralsight, yeah, there are they are really likely to have modern C++, but the price is really high. Pluralsight it's around $300 a year, so uh, not too many people will be allowed to pay that. It's it's cheaper compared to going to college or taking a um, continuous education course at some institution. But still, many people will be reluctant to pay just one for this kind of subscription model online courses.
That's kind of true. I think, especially with universities, it's like an international problem that they start teaching a course and then they keep teaching the course for a decade, and then of course after the decade, the course is not like, but it's still like what they want to teach, and of course, like so like meeting some of the folks online from all over the world with the online user group, I've seen many, and especially like with India, I see that India might not have the big problem with like getting the newest computer hardware, but there's always often teached with like very outdated software, like that Turbo C++ is like seems to be still a big thing, at least in India. And I've also in the job fair I had some interesting conversations. There has been folks which don't know any standards, but they kind of live in a world where C++ is defined by the version of the compiler, like Visual Studio they're working with, and that's how they interact with that. And there's this huge world of developers which are more like seeing it as a tool or like as work, and then they're not really interacting with or like are motivated to learn, because it's like, I think it's like a huge difference to people which are coming to our community events and which are part of the community event. Is mostly we have like also like C++ as a hobby. We have an interest in learning this, and it's for many of us, maybe the motivation has been to secure a good job. And as Hani said, yeah, I think for many of us, it's also the situation. Also for me, it's like my dad wasn't a software engineer, so but he worked with computers, so he does have sometimes some advice with things. But that has, things have changed so much, especially with the cloud, and basically when you have internet access, when you have the connectivity, you have access to everything. But is your connectivity good enough? We had like the person, I know he's originally from Angola, but I'm not sure where he is right now, if he's in Angola or somewhere else. But he had to drop out due to his connectivity issues. And then we had one panel member who couldn't make it to the panel because she had an issue with her microphone, and you need to have a microphone to join this. And so without a microphone, it doesn't make sense to be on a panel. And it's kind of interesting to see how the perspectives are internationally in C++. So maybe let's close out like with what your perspective is on C++. And let's have our speaker speak first on that. Matthew.
Okay. So I think I'll kind of like, let me say, summarize even what I was trying to say in the talk with regards to C++. It is a very rich language, kind of like English, which has evolved in different places for different reasons. And I think it is kind of like a common platform for what I think can unify our computing. So what basically I'm trying to kind of like point out is that this language is very broad, but it has that ability to kind of like unify our computing. And especially now when it comes to learning and teaching, there's a bit of a question here about, can an older person learn? Yes, I do think it is possible, but I think we need to rethink how we communicate that. You see, that's why we're talking about the emphasis on community, just emphasis on spending time reading programs, but reading programs with the understanding that there are many dialects, so to speak, of C++. So you kind of like have to be a bit flexible. That flexibility is actually one of the core things. The same way that we are all speaking in English, but our English is, shall I say, motivated by our background. You see, those from South America, there's a bit of a Spanish, Portuguese flavor to our English. Even the English is very different from the Irish English. So I see C++ in the same way, that it has a common base, that's a common starting point, but it reflects the diversity of where people are learning from, where they're coming from. And when you're talking about the language, you kind of like need to be open to somebody else's background. So as you can see, as we speak to one another, we are able to understand one another despite our different tonations, accents, phrasing of the English language. So that's what I see in C++, and I think it has that potential with more community, with more encouragement, and not just looking at it like a university type thing, but just the kind of thing that just take the time to read about it. There are many free resources. Something I was trying to point to, that there are even free resources before you get to the paid courses. Start reading, just read what you can, watch where you can. Then after some time, then you'll be able to see the value in investing. For example, Kate's course on Pluralsight. There's a talk she gave some time back where she gave this phrase that yes, good training is not free. So yes, though you may start with the free resources, now as you want to learn more, then how you can invest kind of like in the quality teaching. But it starts with the community, with encouraging people to take a look at it. It's not just a university thing, it's a language, it's a way of communicating, and it's one of the best ways to really understand the programs that you actually use, because many of them are actually written in C++ or C++, so to speak. Yeah, that's what I think.
Paula?
Okay, so finishing answer related also with if someone at early age can learn C++. Well, my suggestion and my conclusion is to start in programming. We have to start, as Matthew mentioned it, with English as a way to communicate with others and with our interests. In the developing world, we are using English because it's the language that can allow us to communicate between each other from different countries at different parts of the world. C++, I consider this is something in between, like what it's running in bits and bytes on the computer, and what you can touch or see on any on any object that you have around that uses technology. So uh, to to say that is like anyone can start programming, but not necessarily should be C++ the initial language. It should be something with a high level abstraction, but having a mindset that there is something underlying, and we can do, or we have more control. We are more have more freedom to create software stuff when we are closer to a machine language. And C++ allows you to do that without being um, aware of how assembly works, but not only living to a high level abstraction doing every stuff. Because sometimes you are curious of how things work behind the scenes, and this is what we have to keep the uh, our motivation on learning C++. Regarding to resources, look for what works best for you. If you like reading, obviously look for books. They're not, they might can be seen as expensive, but there are nice investment because you can look anytime you want, even if you don't have internet connection. Or in some parts of the world, as I'm living now in Ecuador, we have some blackouts, power outage. So actually, I have a blackout now. I'm I'm communicating with you via a UPS connection to the modem and the computer. So yeah, maybe I will limit it to be limited to navigate to the browser. If I want to learn something now, I can get the book. But yeah, if you like videos, I knew ex-classmate and some colleagues that they like to learn from videos that they last for around 30 minutes or 1 hour. I can understand that, but this is mine. So, yeah, it's totally valid. Yeah, once you are confident on paying a training, and if you are willing to invest that amount of money, yeah, there is no reason to leave that uh, out of place to consideration.
Gabriel?
Well, to close, I agree with Matthew and Paulo. The important thing I believe is start probably with any language, not necessarily C++, but it's possible to start with C++. Now the last standard allow to new people learn C++ in an easy way, and that is a nice feature. I think is the language. Um, I think also C++ needs more diffusion. More people doesn't know about the language, but it's important in most area is using C++ communication, robotics, 4.0 industry. And for that, the resource available about C++, like the Protocol conference or articles or book or the communities, is the key point to do that. And also, I want to say thank you to Jens for the invitation to the panel. And this is also a, a very nice way to share the knowledge about C++ and promote the language.
And probably I can also close closing words about C++. As I already told, like C++ is an emotional part to me. One, a few more points which I want to mention is C++ keeps me grounded because, like, I at work I still work with C++14. Probably for everyone maybe knowing this because I talk about this. Because of the standard restrictions, we are we have to be in standards restriction. We have to be in C++14, and as Paulo mentioned earlier, like with the new MISRA C++ standards based on C++17, we have hopes that we'll be switching to C++17 soon. Okay, that's it. So we know that how C++ as a language is growing, and that keeps that always makes me humble all the time. That I have more things to learn. I haven't experimented this feature yet, like that. So so that is one thing, and it also keeps my brain active because like every day we'll get into some challenges. This is common not only for C++, it's my software engineering job as well. So why I'm passionate about this job is, yes, it gives me challenges every single day. It keeps my learning muscles active. It uh, it invokes a lot of new thoughts. So it keeps my brain active. So same for C++ as well. And again, the wonderful programming community and the wonderful friends I have. Nobody has seen me live anywhere, and unless in the online space. So that's it. Thank you. Over to Jens.
Yes. Well, it's quite wonderful to hear from all of you. And that brings us to the end. Yeah, my own perspective is I've learned a lot through the years, and trying to continue that learning. And yeah, it's like running the community, or like, you know, not running, but like, you know, being one of the contributors of events and organizing it. This always makes other things hard. So I'm looking forward to write a bit more C++ next year. And that's the other thing which I've experienced this year, is like how hard the learning curve is with, like, you know, it's not just C++. No, you also want to have Git, you want to have a package manager, you want to have CMake, you want to build, and there's not only like one language to learn, there is multiple accompanying tools and things to learn, and it's getting kind of hard to, you know, to get a grasp of like what's all like, you know, like normal, like what we learned by just working on it every day, and just, you know, maybe having some team members take care of other things. So, and with that, thank you all for coming. Also, thank you for those who have had to drop out or couldn't make it because of technical issues. Maybe we have more panels in the future. We'll see. And with that, I think I'm going to end the stream. And so I wish you have all a nice day or a nice evening. And with that, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, Jens.